Hi, and welcome today to Otto Plessner. Through his work in digital performance and his recent exploration in the art of memory, Otto challenges us to rethink what art can be in a time of period of transformation. So thank you for being here, and let's
Thank
dive
you for
in
having me.
with the interview.
Mhm.
So to begin, in a more general matter, what does art mean to you today?
Art today. What does art mean to me today? I think that art is changing in many ways lately. So I think that art has meant the same to me as I think it always has meant. In the end, art is a medium through which we can express ourselves, is a medium through which we can heal ourselves as well from many things. And it's a way to talk about the things in the world that truly comes from our heart. And also, I feel that art is like we're the scientists or the explorers of the unknown fields. So there are things in this world that are unexplainable, things that we cannot put words on, things that science cannot even explain. And those things we explore, and those comes from human emotion. For example, what is love, and what does love do to us, and why does love exist, and why are we here? What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of being human? What's the meaning of the very existence that we have and of the universe? And all these bigger questions is something that art has always been there to try and explore and answer. And I feel that to this day, art is still there to try and explore and answer that. But the way in which we are trying to answer those things and the mediums that we are using are rapidly changing the last couple of years. And that's where I think that we are sort of seeing a creative renaissance, in my opinion, in the sense that there has never been a time where there's been more possibility to express yourself as now. Whether it is through painting in traditional ways, or playing music, or producing or making music, or creating music with your devices or computers or electronic devices, or whether it is using AI to create what's inside of your mind or imagery, or whether it's creating poetry, writing, doing so, all the application of new technologies, and also all I think that is a juxtaposition, because as much as the technology arises new methods, I feel that there's also a huge innovation happening within the field of traditional art. So people instead, like for example, there's many artists now that uses the nature as their canvas. So there's this artist who's quite famous. I believe his name is David Copa, who paints on huge ice surfaces in nature, for example, or he paints on entire mountains, and he paints faces that are, I mean, we're talking 30 meters huge or something like this. And this is not in the past been a traditional manner to create art, but this is also happening. There's also artists that are making kinetic art. So they're using the wind to run through the artworks, and the wind then makes the artworks breathe and live in new ways. You can see installations like that from, for example, Anthony Howe, who is a huge artist in that field. And Studio Drift is also a great example of someone who's really combining kinetics with art and with technology. So there's just so many things happening. And that's what I think my point is also with the creative renaissance, that there's never been, as there is today, so many mediums to express art through your creativity, and everything is becoming a canvas. The nature is a canvas, stones is a canvas, AI is a canvas, projection surfaces. You can project on a building, you can project on a house or a car, or whatever you may want can turn into a surface of art. And that's something very interesting. I feel that for me makes me feel that we're in a new phase where everyone is much more capable of create in any way or manner art, and that I think we will see more and more in the coming 10 years, an explosion of art everywhere, in online, on platforms, on buildings, in the physical world, in immersive worlds, in theater, in performing arts. And that's extremely exciting.
Wow, that's a lot. Like it was amazing. I have never heard of this type of art, and wow, that's why you're here to tell us everything about it. So continuing with these like technological tools that you were talking about that we're creating, there is always like this question that is very polemic, and I would like to know your opinion about it. Like,
Mhm.
can technology be creative?
Can technology be creative? I think that technology on its own or on itself cannot truly be creative, since the creativity of the technology comes from the input of the human behind it. So in the end, there has to be a human who brings a certain emotion or question or inspiration to it. And without that, the technology itself does not have innate, intuitive or authentic creativity, let's say. In ways you can argue that, I mean, technology can be creative in some ways. I mean, you can argue that, for example, if you're using ChatGPT, and you're asking ChatGPT to write your story. So I asked ChatGPT, I want you to write a story about a turtle who's very lonely and goes into the forest to find his family, and then he transforms into a super being or whatever you may dream up in your mind. That part, the ChatGPT fills in the gaps between what you're imagining, right? And that is creativity in some way. But it's very different from human creativity. It's not a creativity that is coming from anything other than a huge set of data collection. So it has analyzed thousands of scripts, books, writings, texts, and it brings all that and it mixes it in the pot, and then it uses that to create an output. But it's built on existing data and knowledge and work, right? And also only on the data that is available to the AI. So there's also data that the AI, for example, cannot have. I mean, it hasn't. I don't think that AI has scanned all the papyrus rolls of Aristotle and the Greek people that lies hidden in libraries around the world. So it doesn't have access to that data. There's also certain things that are, let's say, folklore or culturally translated between humans in certain tribes or places around the world or cities. These kind of things it doesn't have access to, right? So there's a big gap there. And another thing is also that there's something more in being creative, of course, than what I mean. If you're a human person, you grow up, you have a normal life, we are all inspired by something. Like, we are a collection of what we have experienced and seen and been inspired from. So if I become a painter, I may be inspired by Picasso and Dali, and I use that inspiration and I create my own style eventually from them, right? So in that sense, I'm doing the same as an AI. I have a database of things that I know, but there's a core difference. As a kid, I go into the world and I see it with my own eyes and I dream and I imagine things, right? And that part where I'm fusing stuff in my head, sitting and daydreaming out of the blue sky, that is only in my head that exists. There is no other head that comes from. So that's completely unique to me. And that is something that an AI cannot do, because an AI doesn't have that. And that, for me, is what creativity truly is the individual imagination of a person. And that person then perceives the world in a certain way and translate their vision of what they're seeing in their very unique perspective to you. And then you see the world from their eyes, which has a resonance in you, because maybe there's a part of how they see the world that resonates with you, and you feel, oh, it's true. Also, when I look at a sunset like this, is full of colors. So think of Van Gogh. It resonates maybe because you feel that when you look at the world, you also feel that it's so colorful at times as he saw it, right? But it's only Van Gogh who can see the world that way. There's no other person.
So, in the art of memory, you talk about multisensory performance as a composition of many things.
Mhm.
Um, how has this shaped the view of performance?
So I think what's happening with the art of memory is an attempt to sort of, what we're trying to do is to try to bring the new era of performance of theater into the world. And I think the dream and the wish is to sort of combine a lot of different elements in order to kind of fashion a new type of storytelling. The idea behind it is essentially also attached to the fact that if you have Alzheimer's, it's all about memory, right? We all have memories. Memories are what shape us. Memories is what makes us the people we are today. And what happens if something as fragile as your memory, it disintegrates or it starts disappearing from you? But also in that way in an immersive experience that we want to create, there are several elements that composes our memory, right? So I walk down a street and I look at a coffee shop, I see a sign. It reminds me of an old coffee shop that I used to go to when I was a kid. That triggers my memories. And now I'm remembering when I used to live in Sweden. But at the same time, I also smell something, and that scent, maybe cinnamon buns, brings me back to another place from where I used to be. And at that same time, I'm hearing some music in the background. Maybe it's an Italian song, and I remind and remembers when I used to travel to Rome. So we have all these senses that come into place, and same as the touch or the feel of the wind that comes, the kind of wind that comes to blow, the humidity of the air can also remind you. Like, for example, every time I step out of a plane and I smell the air in Denmark, it's only in Denmark I feel that like that wind. It's a special wind. And that can happen that I'm in another place in the world. I feel the same wind. I'm reminded of my home. So in the end, what I'm trying to say is that we want to take all these senses and we want to trigger them in that show. So that's why it's multisensorial. It's a multisensory experience where we use visuals and we use the scent and we use the touch and we use the music and we use all these things to activate your senses and form and create memories. So you're forming and creating memories in this performance, and you're following the character, the main character who has Alzheimer's, and you're seeing how she is reliving those memories from these different triggers, whether it's scent or sound or music or another trigger. And you're also seeing how she constructs and builds those memories, but you also see how those memories fall apart. And that's why we want to use and integrate all these elements. So essentially, it becomes sort of like it's a theater show in one way. It's also a musical because we're having music combined in with it too. But it's also an art installation because it's also digital art that is based on research and based on memories that is then enveloping the audiences with AI. So it's many things in one thing, but also our mind memory is something so complex. And in order to capture the complexity in a simple way, we feel that the most powerful way to do so is by combining all these elements into one. And at the same time, of course, always we are seeking to kind of break the status quo and see how can we create a different kind of space, a new type of space for audiences to experience and engage on a deeper level than normally.
Yeah. Aligned with that, how has technology transformed the performance of the practice?
Technology has transformed the performance. I think right now what's happening, at least how I see it, is that it's transforming it in the sense of things are becoming a lot more interactive. So in the past, art would maybe mainly be something that you observe more. You're not necessarily a part of it. The more that technology has come into the picture, the more there has come these options of finding ways for people to actually step into the art or become part of the art or shape the art with the story itself. And there's a great deal of examples of that. Punch Drunk is, for example, a theater company in the world that is famous for Sleep No More, where they made an interactive and immersive theater show spanning across 100 rooms in a hotel, where you would walk around and you're inside this theater and this world and living and breathing. But nowadays, you also see things like Team Lab, right? And you're not looking at a frame, you're inside the frame. It's all around you. And if you touch the art or if you walk in it, it moves and it interacts with you. So if I put my hand on the wall where the art is flowing, it senses that my hand is there and it will move. And there are even artworks that uses your breath. So if I breathe, it will change or alter the art. Some also use heartbeat. So if I put my heartbeat, the lights will start to sync up with my heartbeat. And these kind of things is something that is growing exponentially more and more. And I think technology also helps to allow to make the process easier in which you can have people interact with art and become part of it and immerse themselves in it. And it's the same as in storytelling too. Like, I mean, for example, you would now be able to apply, let's say, an AI in a space. You could go up and you could talk to it and you could say something. You could say, I'm dreaming to become an astronaut, for example, I don't know. And you say that and it answers you. And all of a sudden it would generate an image of an astronaut floating in space. So, I mean, there are like ways to use this now with technology that is like forwarding that part a lot. I feel.
Perfect. Now, is digital culture really democratizing art or just shifting all structures into new formats?
I think it's shifting it into new formats more than it's democratizing it, I would say. It's shifting it into new formats and new ways, and it's making it. It's just changing the way that's perceived. Because I think in the end, I think the normal like way of structures will still be there in place. Like for example, you will still have MoMA, you will still have all these museums. It will still be the same game of you as an artist trying to put something into the world and then get it into MoMA or get it into this theater or get it into that place because that's the place that has the renown. That's the place where it sells. And then it instead of it's a canvas, an art frame, it's just a or a painting. It's an NFT or it's a EET or it's a whatever term you want to give it. So I feel that that is more changing the formats. I feel, but of course, it is also maybe in some ways. I think the new type of rising arts is begging for a lot more collaboration. It's seeking that you are collaborating because it only becomes more fascinating the more you add to it. So now, if I'm making a digital artwork, it will be so much more beautiful if there's music. So I need a composer, and it would be even more beautiful if I added some dancers. So I'm calling some dancers, and it would be even more beautiful if I also managed to do it on the outside of a building. So I need a whole technical team of people to come help with that. So it's like also I think building out art because it expands it and makes it a little bit bigger in some way. And then you are requiring to collaborate and become more cross-pollinated and be more cross-disciplinary. And I also find that interesting because what starts happening is that you get a lot of different people into the same melting pots from different fields. Like scientists are working with artists more than ever. Architects are beginning to get into the field of art too, and what that means and how they can use it and transform it. So I feel that we're really coming into an era also of cross-disciplinary work, which is super fascinating as well.
I love it because when you talk about it, it's like, yeah, like this collaboration, this like unifying of the creative processes of many people. But instead of this like general kind of way of thinking of people nowadays that like creativity is dying because technology is kind of like making us less creative in a way. What do you think about this? Like what would you answer to these people?
I think to I will answer the bold reply to it, like the brave reply. The brave reply is that I don't think that it will kill creativity. I think that I mean because if I don't want to use I can easily go out and I can build a beautiful artwork in nature using sticks or using anything other material or painting, and it will be just as admirable and just as beautiful as it is if I were to do it with AI. My process will be slower, but the more there will be AI and technology art, the more people will also, I think, crave things that are real and authentic, right? So it will grow in both ways. I think people that love tech, they will want more tech art, and people that love nature and connection and to have things that are authentic and real will have more of this. So I think it will somehow actually further and grow both more in the world. And I think what's actually the truth to it, what we shouldn't be afraid of creativity dying or creatives not having work anymore. I think we should be afraid of having too much work. I think it will amplify. I think we'll have 10 times more work because all of a sudden, if you look at history as well, what happens is that if something becomes easier, right? So now creativity, making art, using Midjourney or whatever, it's becoming a little easier than it was maybe before for a lot of people. When it becomes easier and also more financially less cost, right? Cheaper, then it actually just doubles or goes more because now all of a sudden a lot of people that couldn't afford to use or make art will say, hey, but if you can use this and the budget is this, then I also want art. I also want our brand to incorporate artistic elements into our branding or into this or into our commercials, or other museums that maybe couldn't do before will say, hey, but we can make a museum using this because it's actually not that expensive too. So then all of a sudden what will happen is actually that it will just be a lot more work. And I think the artist of tomorrow is gonna be stressed out, uh, having all this, and also being like, I think you will have to be more hybrid. We'll have to live in a space where we maybe know also more about, about technology, a little bit about this, a little bit about that, something about architecture, and you're gonna have like a mix. Like when you look back to artists like Michelangelo, who was in the end so many things. He was a mathematician, but also an architect, but also this, but also that, and he had a lot of disciplines that he fused. And I think that's going to become more common, that you'll see these multi-talented personas who has a lot of different talents and don't just work as an artist, but works as many other things as well, and incorporates the other disciplines they have into their art. I think, but of course, there can be some things at risk too, and there can be people that maybe lose some jobs. I can imagine, which is a horrible thing as well. And But I think that the best one can do is to embrace what is happening, find out how you can use it, and choose where you stand. Either go with the wave of technology, use it to your advantage, or say that you don't want to be part of that wave. You'd rather want to create a counter wave and go in the real world and become more authentic and go back to raw materials. Because I think it's going to be either one of these that is going to be the things that's happening. I think the people in the middle are the ones that are going to struggle.
Perfect. So just aligned with that, it goes perfectly with my next question. So,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to the artists that want to integrate technology into their work?
Well, advice would first off be curiosity. I mean, it's a wonderful tool in many ways, and I think it's also about really research it, because there's many ways to use technology, also ways that are not so invasive or takes over your creative process too much. Sometimes it can also be just about, amplifying what you already have, right? So let's say that you're a painter, you paint traditional paintings. Now you finished your painting. What if you could take your painting and you could make a digital world that people could put on a headset or take their phone with AR or XR or VR, and they could step into your painting as well? So the painting is physically there, it is still real, but you're adding the application of being able to also experience it on another level. Or what if you could take your painting, use AI, and bring it to life? And in another counter position of the real painting is a world dreaming with your painting. So I think there's like many ways to apply technology. Another way is also like, this is not that advanced, but another way is also in general, you can get your art out there maybe much easier than you could before, by using social medias or using other platforms. You'll be able to spread your art out and reach people and get more work in and get more collaborations and do more things with it. And also your format changes. So maybe let's say you're a traditional painter as well. We take the same example, and now you could talk to like a studio, and you could maybe take your art and transform it into an immersive experience that becomes exhibited as well at any given museum, which is also a fascinating thing to work with. So yeah, my best advice would be, explore, try things out, and see if there's anything that could amplify your art. Because in the end, the important part always as an artist is that technology should never take over or overpower the art. It should only come in to amplify it. And it's the same for me when you make a show. This is essential. I mean, in the end, you have a dancer or a musician on stage, and they're pouring their soul out. And if I put a huge visual and make everything with lights flutter so that you can't even see them, then you lose the whole point. Like, that's not the point of it. It's not to overpower the artist itself. It's actually just to come in and see, how can I take what they're already giving out to the world and amplify that in a subtle and beautiful and poetic way, so that I expand that feeling. So in the moment that the music hits, or in the moment that the dancer moves right like that, I make you feel that even more. But I don't take away their movements. I don't take away their music or the focus from them.
Well, I love your approach to performance tech. that goes into my next question. That is, what are the top trends or movements you see shaping performance tech?
Yeah, nowadays I see that a lot that is shaping performance is actually, well, AI is shaping performance a lot, meaning in terms of interactive visuals as well. So Touch Designer, it's a quite common software being used a lot. I think Touch Designer and interactive media and AI is gonna be very, very game changing in the live performing arts, enabling an orchestra or a dancer to dance, and it affects the visual in real time, and things are happening in real time that affects things, and the music is moving and living with the visuals and with the lights. That is gonna grow a lot, and something that I'm seeing happening a lot, and examples of it is Anima at the Sphere, where it's happening, and also a lot of other examples are science. There's coming more application of science into art as well, I feel, and in the space of light performances. So like being kind of, either backed or researched or using scientific methods inside of the art, I find that is becoming a more common thing. And that can be in terms of having an EEG scanner that translate brainwaves, or having a measurement that measures your heart and syncs up with the lights, or things like this. Are also applications that are happening, and other things are also, I mean, if you look at design, like let's say installations, there's a lot of research right now, scientific level, where they're trying to see how can you make sustainable materials. There's Neri Oxman is a very, very pioneering woman within this field. I highly recommend checking out her art. She's like a next level genius. But she builds, for example, structures using larvae. So she has larvae that then builds a whole structure that then became an art installation. So it's kind of built and made by nature itself. And I think these kind of things as well, like sustainability, the green, and also finding innovative new ways of kind of using materials to design things, is also something that is gonna come more and more.
I have seen that you've shared like some things that you have made yourself for
Mm-hmm.
brands, and some that are actually going on. So how would you feel like, I have seen in the trends that now experiences and these live things that we can interact are taking more place into like brands. How do
Mm-hmm.
you feel like performance techs and brands are like merging, and what is like the future in this field?
I feel that what is happening right now in terms of this is like brands are becoming like, in the past you would take the message of a brand or the style of a brand, and you would simply take it and kind of amplify it, or grow it, or find ways for it to pop up in unexpected places. But nowadays I think it's becoming more and more about translating the brand into an emotion. So it's like, how can this become something that we experience and feel, more than something that we observe or get informed, right? So normally you get informed that this is the brand and they do this for you, and this is how it's very cool, right? This is an amazing thing. Look at this guy, he uses it. And but now I think it's becoming more about how can you connect and feel and live and understand the brand on a more emotional level as well. Because in the end, I mean, behind most of brands are people, right? And people are emotive creatures, and people that creates a brand has a big vision. They have a dream. They have an emotion behind it, and I think that is what people in the end connects even more truly with. And finding the way through these technologies to connect people more in that way with brands, I think is something that is becoming happening more and more. And you'll see more kind of activations, let's say installations, performances, where in the core of it is not the brand, right? It's a feeling, an experience, and afterwards you know that it's from the brand, but it's not in the brand is not in the center. The art is in the center, and it gives you an emotion that the brand wants to communicate to you, an experience it wants you to feel. And I find that very interesting, because it's shifting the way that we operate and think about when we create for brands.
Totally, like it's shaking marketing world completely and taking the like performance out of this like just for inspiration or just for entertainment, and making it part of our lives in a different way, as you say. So finally, just my last question. Um, do you think a space like Culttech, what we're building, or this awareness in this more in an economical point of view, is important right now, like to shape a community or to give like this visibility and awareness to this sector that is booming?
Definitely, I think it's very essential, and I think it's a wonderful thing that Culttech is doing that. And I also think that it's an important thing to give like some focus and attention and focus to. It's a growing thing, and it's growing rapidly. It's here to stay, I think. And putting attention, awareness, and focus on it will be something that can hugely help in terms of also really, bridging the gap between the past and the future, kind of, so that people can start to maybe also feel and see a bit where are we all heading with everything that is happening out there right now in the industry and the sector. And also the community part is important, because I think many times when you're an entrepreneur or you're someone who really wants to push the boundaries, uh, or being an innovator, it's not everyone that will understand you or get you, and you'll get a lot of rejections, right? So I think like a part of at least a big part of my work or our work is that rejections, and we have internalized and made rejections actually a part of our core. We want to get rejected because
Yeah.
we know that it's not everything that is perfect. Nothing will ever fit. We're not about coming and finding like the perfect match for someone. I don't want to do that. I want to push the boundaries. I want to do something exceptional, something remarkable, something new. And if people don't align with that, then there's no reason that we should collaborate. Then it's good that we don't work, because then we won't make something beautiful together, because we will misunderstand each other, and I will drag them out in a space where they will feel uncomfortable about what's being happening, and they will drag me down to a place where I will feel unhappy because I feel that I don't get to come out and express and really create something meaningful for where we stand. So I think that that's also part of it, and having a community to lean on, people to talk to, because when you're someone who wants to step in the world and do something very new and innovative, and essentially also if you're just a human being with a big dream and you want to make it real, you're gonna face so many challenges. You're gonna face so many rejections, and it's gonna make you question yourself. It's gonna make you think, am I wrong? Is this not cool? Is this not what people want? Is this not the future? Is this and I think the answer to most of that is always no, you're not. I mean, the founder and CEO of Canva, she was rejected 120 times. All the publications in all of UK rejected J.K. Rowling when she came out with her book as well. Quentin Tarantino was rejected tons of times too before he got to make his movies. And I think it's just part of when you're someone who really has a new, fresh take or idea in the world, it is hard to get it in there. And having a community, a place that makes awareness about this, and bridging that also between the people that are sitting behind the power in these companies and that are driving these engines and everything, that for them to understand, see that, and have a platform to visit that can inform them in that would help greatly. And yeah, so that's, I think, would be my answer.
Thank you. And last message that I just came like it just came to my mind, like a final message for investors out there, or yeah, like people that are just like finding out that this exists. Would you say performance tech is a profitable space to invest, and why?
Okay. Yes, definitely it is profitable. I mean, it's profitable. It's profitable because you are able to create more with less. In many situations, you are, and in that way, you are able to also, like let's say that you're expanding spaces, making art spaces, experiences. So what we're working on a lot. For example, let's say that I would make a traditional show. just a normal show. You come in, it's playing once a day, and you pay your tickets and you leave, and there's 500 seats, and this is it for the day. Like now, if you create an immersive experience, you place some actors at the center of it. This kind of immersive experience is something that unfolds a narrative throughout many times in the day, right? Not just once, maybe five, maybe six times, maybe seven times, maybe there's even two shifts. Maybe the first actors come in the morning and in the afternoon they leave and the next day take over. And you do that with this immersive take, with the experience, with the music or whatever it is that you're creating. Yeah, the profit they will grow exponentially from what you would in a normal show because you're able to sell 7 or 8 times the tickets, and the flow of people you would be able to have will become more. Another part of it that I think is maybe also underestimated is that you can create intimate experiences. So let's talk about exclusivity, VIP, right? Like coming in a space and creating something for a smaller group of people is also a possibility. And there, I think, is also a craving for that, and also to be able to take in clients or people and really show them something unique and special. Because in the end, also, I mean, if we talk about events, like with an event, right? You attend an event. Let's say it's a normal event. You leave the event, and it's not like a lot of other events. Let's say you visit a lot of events. Me too, like 20 of them a year, and it's hard to decipher between what's what in the end because it's all kind of similar. But if you put a very artistic or beautiful performance inside of that event that happens in the middle of the day, and it's something truly remarkable, people won't forget it because it will make it stand out. So I think in today's day and in the future, I think it would be foolish not to create a beautiful, strong, immersive installation or performance that leaves people with a memory, right? Because when you do that, people will remember your event forever because they will never forget it. And that is something that I think is definitely worth the investment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You always go for the emotional part, and I love it. And of course, it's what every brand and business and things are all about, but people often forget about it.